Welcome back to my series on patching the Polykrell. We've seen in previous videos how I was able to set up the original melody voice, and then how I was able to derive some paraphonic voices, and how I was able to create a bass voice and a counterpart voice that we're listening to now. The counterpart voice, as I explained in previous videos, is based on sweeping elements using a Z3000 to sweep the elements resonator, and then from elements I'm taking its output and I'm heading into one of my all-time favorites, the Dope4 A107 multi-type morphing filter. And it's a really unique, interesting filter in that it has a whole bunch of different filter types, something like 36, and then you can morph across them, essentially internally crossfading by using a sequence of filters and stepping or sweeping through that sequence with incoming CV. It's a great filter. It gives you, like most Dope4 filters, control over the gain coming in the audio, cutoff frequency, resonance control, CV for both of those, and it gives you CV for control, or clock for control of the internal sequencer of filter types. Now in this case, I've got so much going on in this patch that I'm not using its morphing function. I'm simply going through and picking filter types that I like and then using the modulation that I've set up to give me the kind of sound that I want. And I can change, I've got it actually in filter type display here, or I can be in step display, but I want to be on filter type, which then lets me pick from filter types that are displayed in the manual simply by manually changing this. So now I'm on filter 5, which is a bandpass. Filter 6, another bandpass. Filter 7 is a notch low pass and a bandpass. Filter 8, an all pass and a band pass, so it's like two little bumps. Filter 9, which is like a big band pass separated by a notch in the middle, so it looks like a giant M. And then I'm modulating the resonance very, very slightly with CV from mass channel 1, which is our Krell envelope for the counterpart voice, and I'm modulating the frequency very, very slightly by that same Krell output from mass, but I've got the CV note CV that's controlling our pitches for that voice coming in 100% to the filter, so that the filter is tracking those note pitches. So the filter is fairly subtle in terms of what it's doing. I'll just open it up a little bit and open up the sweep. In the final mix, I really don't need it to be too bright, as I've got the melody voice and some harmony parts. So typically when I'm creating these types of pieces, I try not to over-modulate anything. And it's one of the important skills in modular isn't so much patching CVs in and getting them to do lots of things, but rather patching CV in and then trying to tame it. More often than not, I find myself attenuating CVs to get a more subtle effect. Then I'm busy over-modulating things and then just getting a whole bunch of wild frequencies out of the other end of it. But of course, that's always one of our options. And it's easy enough to take all of these incoming CVs attenuate them with a VCA and then have control over them like I spoke about before, so that we can change them as the piece makes its way through its different forms. Now I'm just going to add in the two harmony parts so we can hear them interacting with the counterpart. Out the harmony parts and change up our scale. Going to reach over to the quantizer and I'm going to go back to our E flat minor pentatonic scale, and then I'll bring in the two harmony parts again. Now it takes a few cycles of each harmony part's Krell envelope to go grab those new notes, because it's still holding notes that were loaded into the two telharmonics from the previous quantization scale. And now I'm going to add in the bass part. So now we're listening to the bass, we're listening to the two paraphonic telharmonic voices, and we're listening to the counterpart melody. So the bass is one note monophonic, the counterpart is one note monophonic, and each of the telharmonics can have up to 3 pitches, and provided that the scale coming out of the U scale, our quantizer, has more than 3 or more pitches coming out of it, then the telharmonic can pick any of those to give us 3 different pitches. And because I've got 2 telharmonics grabbing pitches at different time frames, they can both be doing different things. So a quantization scale that had 6 notes in it might result in a 6-note chord coming out of the sum of the 2 telharmonics, which is why I like to pan them out in stereo. They can be doing some really interesting things. And then finally, let's snap in the melody voice. So now with the bass part, the counterpart, And the melody, that's three voices for each of the teleharmonics is 6. So this is a total of 9 voices of polyphony. And I'm driving the whole thing with a 5-note pentatonic scale, so we're going to have a lot of doubling going on. The bass part and the counterpart melody are lower in starting position by an octave, and 2 octaves in the case of the bass, than the melody, and the melody will optionally skip up an octave. As I explained in previous videos, we did that using a disting. So as one can imagine, it takes a lot of preparation to record a piece like this, and there's a lot of tuning that goes on, and typically I'll tune my way through the recording process as I go, letting the whole system warm up for a good hour, and then making sure that I'm tuned simply by decreasing the range of the output of the quantizer and setting it to be 1 pitch, and then everything will eventually grab that 1 pitch, and then I can set everything to be tuned. But in any system where there's sample and holds involved, there can always be some little glitches, and some little gremlins can sneak in, so we may get some errant, out of place pitches. I'm just going to reach over and snap our quantizer to be something a little bit different. So now we've got it set to be a diminished scale, which is essentially half step, whole step, all the way up over the octave. So it has an extra non-diatonic note added to it, so it has 8 notes per the octave. So we're going to hear all kinds of diminished chords and minor tetrachord runs. I hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into creating Polykrell patches on Eurorack systems. Please like and subscribe. Consider joining my Patreon to help me make more videos in the future. And if you're a mod wiggler, please feel free to post up some of the patches you've been creating along these lines in the thread that we've got going on there with all these videos in it. I always love to see what you guys are up to, and it's always a big surprise, and it's heartening to see that people are getting something out of this work. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time around.